Stephen Hawking was born on January 8, 1942, in Oxford, England, exactly 300 years after the death of Galileo Galilei. He grew up in a household that prized intellectual curiosity above all else. His parents were both Oxford educated, and his father was a researcher in tropical medicine. The Hawking family was known for being eccentric, often eating meals in silence while each member read a book. As a schoolboy, Stephen was nicknamed Einstein by his peers. Though his academic performance was not initially record-breaking, he was a bright, but occasionally lazy student, possessing a restless mind that was more interested in how things worked than in rote memorization. He eventually won a scholarship to University College, Oxford, where he found the physics curriculum so easy that he estimated he only did about 1,000 hours of work during his entire 3-year degree, an average of about 1 hour per day. After graduating with honours from Oxford, Hawking moved to Cambridge to begin his graduate studies in cosmology. It was during this time, at the age of 21, that he began to notice a growing clumsiness in his movements. After a series of tests, he was diagnosed with amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, a motor neuron disease that the doctors predicted would kill him within 2 years. This diagnosis plunged him into a deep depression, but it also became the catalyst for his greatness. Realizing that he might not have much time left, Hawking found a new sense of purpose. He married Jane Wilde, who provided him with the emotional stability he needed, and he threw himself into his research with a level of focus he had never previously exhibited. He began to look at the universe through the lens of general relativity, specifically focusing on the origins of time and the nature of space. What made Hawking a global icon was his ability to synthesize two of the most disparate fields in physics: general relativity, which describes the very large, and quantum mechanics, which describes the very small. In the early 1970s, he turned his attention to black holes. At the time, the scientific consensus was that black holes were cosmic traps from which nothing, not even light, could escape. Hawking, however, applied quantum theory to the edge of a black hole, known as the event horizon. He mathematically demonstrated that black holes are not completely black. Instead, they emit a faint glow of thermal radiation. This phenomenon, now known as Hawking radiation, suggested that black holes could eventually evaporate and disappear over vast periods of time. This discovery was revolutionary because it forced scientists to grapple with the information paradox, the question of what happens to the information about objects that fall into a black hole if the black hole itself eventually vanishes. Hawking's impact on the world extended far beyond the walls of the laboratory. He became a symbol of the triumph of the human spirit over physical limitation. As his body succumbed to paralysis, and he lost his natural voice following a tracheotomy, he began using a computerized speech synthesizer. This distinct, robotic voice became one of the most recognizable sounds in the world. In 1988, he published A Brief History of Time, a book intended to explain complex cosmological concepts like the Big Bang and black holes to the general public. Against all odds, the book became an international bestseller, staying on the Sunday Times bestseller list for a record-breaking 237 weeks. By translating the language of God, mathematics, into prose that a layperson could understand, he invited the entire human race to contemplate the mysteries of the universe. To understand how smart Hawking truly was, one must look at how he worked toward the end of his life. Because he could no longer use a pen or a keyboard, he developed the ability to manipulate complex geometric shapes and equations entirely within his mind. He thought in pictures and topographies, visualizing the curvature of four-dimensional space-time in a way that few other humans have ever been able to replicate. He occupied the Lucasian Chair of Mathematics at Cambridge for 30 years, a position previously held by Isaac Newton. His colleagues often remarked that Hawking's greatest strength was his intuition. He had a feel for the universe that allowed him to leap to conclusions that others would spend years proving through rigorous calculation. He wasn't just a calculator. He was a visionary who sought a theory of everything that would unify all the forces of nature into a single elegant equation. Hawking became one of the smartest scientists in history, not just through raw IQ, but through a combination of stubbornness and perspective. His illness forced him to discard the trivial distractions of life and focus only on the fundamental questions. Where did the universe come from? Why is it here? Will it ever end? He was a pioneer in the study of singularities, points of infinite density where the laws of physics break down. Alongside Roger Penrose, he proved that according to the theory of relativity, the universe must have begun as a singularity, a discovery that provided the mathematical backbone for the Big Bang theory. He pushed the boundaries of human knowledge further than almost any of his contemporaries, exploring the possibility of imaginary time and the idea that the universe has no boundaries or edges. Despite his fame, Hawking remained deeply grounded in his commitment to the future of humanity. He was a vocal advocate for space exploration, believing that the long-term survival of the human race depended on our ability to colonize other planets. He worried about the risks of artificial intelligence and the potential for climate change to render the Earth uninhabitable. He used his platform to speak on behalf of the disabled and to defend the importance of science funding and education. He was a man who lived his life on the edge of the abyss, both physically and cosmologically, yet he maintained a sharp, often wicked sense of humor and a zest for life that saw him traveling to every continent, including Antarctica, and even experiencing zero gravity on a specialized flight. Stephen Hawking died on March 14, 2018, at the age of 76, defying his original medical death sentence by more than half a century. His ashes were interred in Westminster Abbey, nestled between the graves of Isaac Newton and Charles Darwin. He left behind a legacy that changed our fundamental understanding of space and time. He proved that even if the body is confined to a wheelchair, the mind can roam the furthest reaches of the cosmos. He showed the world that the universe is not just a cold, mechanical place, but a wonder to be explored and understood. His life served as a testament to the idea that curiosity is the greatest tool of the human species, and that even in the face of total darkness, there is always light to be found through the power of reason and the courage to ask why. Through his work on the origins of the cosmos and the radiation of black holes, he bridged the gap between the abstract and the observable. He gave us the tools to imagine the beginning of time and the eventual fate of all matter. He became a cultural icon not just because of his brilliant mind, but because he was a teacher who wanted everyone to look up at the stars instead of down at their feet. He transformed from a student with a death sentence into the most famous scientist of the modern era by refusing to let his physical state dictate his intellectual horizon. In the end, Stephen Hawking did not just study the laws of physics, he rewrote them, ensuring that his name would be spoken as long as humans continue to wonder about the stars.